You guys get drinks and stuff? No. I love these boys. Like, unashamedly, I think they're so good at this. But people make fun of them all the time. Like at home, my fridge is full of like how most guys just have like a fridge full of beer. Mine is just full of LaCroix. I do. And I actually put it into a wine glass. I think you're good. Well, for me, it replaced drinking alcohol after work. Because like sometimes after work, I would like wine and beer. Here are soda. And like nobody wants to like, thank God I got crap with the water.
We're live, Hello, hello.
Can I do this? I can't stand it. It's very It's okay. Yeah. I think it's not even like that. This is where it's react. This one is working out. It sums up, right? We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it.
Hi.
Are you going upstairs?
Yes. I did.
Are you going to come back now?
Yes. Fantastic. So much fun. I'm bored about it. So it's like barely enough to like make your thoughts or something, and then it's like 5 minutes. Yeah.
What do you mean, like they invite you to the or your friend invite you?
They invite all of us, and then they invite.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What class is it? Oh, they I was trying to get her to get it out. Look at that forward. I didn't even try to deal. Yeah, are you, but you're going to something, you're going to Zoom next year. That's going to be fun too.
Yeah, it's sold out
$10,000
very,
$10,000? $10,000. Oh, should we go?
That's so you can get that.
I never met someone who's more
Set it up today. It took me like 5 minutes. I'm so smart. Yep, you get your own.
Hello.
Hello. right over there.
Hi. Very loud. Hi, welcome. My name is Christy Lloyd. I'm the campus director here at the Flatiron School. We're so excited to have you all here and to get involved. Everyone's obviously excited. Grace Hopper's here. We're so excited to have our wonderful panel. I would like to start by introducing our moderators, Denise Hamilton. She's the CEO of Watch Her Work, and I will let her tell you about herself, and we'll go ahead and get started. And please do ask questions. That's what everyone here is for, so you all can learn about them, how they became developers, and how they did it from a non-traditional background.
Hello everyone, how are you? It's taking everything in me to not make you all stand up and come closer. Everything in me, all the teacher in me is saying, get from the back of the class. But I am thrilled that we are all here today. It's such an exciting week. I'm feeling the girl love. Are you feeling the girl power this week of Grace Hopper in town? I really am. So what is Watch Her Work? I founded it, and it is a digital platform basically to support women as they grow professionally. I film successful women and organize their advice on the web so other women have it when they need it. Things like, how do you ask for a raise? How do you tell your boss you're pregnant? All those kinds of subjects. So we have a library of about 7,000 videos adding all the time to make sure you have the advice that you need to grow and be the best professional that you can be. And one of the biggest challenges that I hear from my audience all the time is, how do I start? How do I get into tech? What's that journey like? And so I'm super excited to be a part of this event tonight, and really proud of all of you for taking a step, right? Because every journey begins with one step. And you're here today to learn and grow. And let's hear who we're going to learn and grow from. And let's start at the end. You want to introduce yourself and what your role is.
Hi, my name is Yu Chen. I'm a senior product manager here at the Flatiron School.
Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany, Marketing, Data and Analytics Lead at Flatiron School for Customer and Business Insights.
I'm Jane Bora, and I'm a software engineer at Flatiron School.
Hello.
I am Liz Kalina, and I'm also a software engineer at Flatiron School alongside Jane.
All right, and we'll start with you. How did you get here? Why tech? What was your journey?
Sure. So I'm a Flatiron grad, so I think my cohort was, 2016, February 2016. Previously, I had been working in architecture, and then I sort of at a software company in a non-technical role, and sort of fell in love with coding, and the rest is history.
I graduated in 2008 when the housing crisis was like at its peak, and I couldn't get a job. I was an economics major. I was looking into consulting, like something in finance, and that just didn't pan out. And the only skill that I had was like building websites from when I used to like make GeoCities, like sites, like Angel Fire websites, like back in the day. And then I was like, okay, this is like literally the only skill I have, so I'm gonna put HTML on my resume and like see where that goes. And so like I was like building email templates and designing email templates, and I kind of want to stab my eye. So, because it was just so boring, it was so awful, like horrible job. And I was like, I want to build cool shit. So that's why I found Flatiron School, and I took the program, and then from there, now I'm a software engineer for the
career route?
So I'm not a Flatiron School alumni, but gone through the traditional university, still going on. I love to learn and probably going to empty my pockets learning. But that's the great thing about Flatiron School. You're always a student, right? In every aspect, not just actually learning on that end, but also learning in what you're doing every day. And I got here because I was working at IBM, and they decided to move into a WeWork building, and that was probably the biggest mistake because that's the day that they lost me. And I came over to Flatiron School, and Flatiron School, if you guys don't know, is actually part of WeWork, and it's just a fantastic way to leverage your community and your opportunity to learn and be able to explore that.
So I think I'm actually I have kind of a traditional background into tech. So I'm not quite sure why I'm on this panel, but I think I can give a different perspective. I studied electrical engineering and computer science as my undergrad and master's degrees, but I went through a lot of different career hops to get to where I am today. I did another master's, and I think throughout all of these streams of job changes, I realized I really wanted to make social impact, but still stay in tech somehow. So I was at Google before the Flatiron School, and I felt like I was at google.org and a few other social impact groups. We were making very shallow impact at a massive scale, hundreds of millions, billions of users, whereas here we're making really huge transformative impact on students' lives, but at a much smaller but growing scale. So I thought this was a really interesting place to be. So I am somewhat traditional, I guess.
We love traditional. So who do we have out there? How many of you are in tech or developers right now today? Raise your hand. Raise it high, girl. Proud. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, how many are looking to get into tech or curious about it and here to learn? Fabulous. How many of you are, a little hesitant? You're worried because of your age, your background, your gender. You're like, are you going to be able to plug into this tech thing? Okay? Well, we are going to dash all of those fears tonight. No pressure. Right? No pressure. Okay, so let's start from the very, very beginning. There is so much talk about diversity, and there's so many investments being made in diversity. Who do you look to? Like, who's doing it right? Who's really doing a great job? And from a company standpoint.
For me, I actually look to fantastic Black network group within LinkedIn. And I look to that not just for the diversity within the organization, but how they're building that into their products. How are they trying to get more professionals from various backgrounds, cultures, interests onto one platform where they can meet new people, share those ideas, and create some bigger and better things.
I actually look to companies that are like women-led or like POC-led or like BI POC. I think that's like the term now. So like looking for companies where the person who started it or who's leading it is a minority, because then they tend to want to know the value of hiring from these groups. Like there are some in New York that do that. I don't know the names of it, but I'm sure you can Google it.
I don't know if I have a particular company, but at least I know, so whenever like you're going interviewing or just sort of meeting, I feel like you can sort of like get a vibe, you can sort of tell, are you seeing people represented on different teams? Like, do you feel like it's just like a supportive culture where people feel like they value it as opposed to being like, this is like a checkbox? So there's not like one thing, I think it's like kind of a holistic.
And you can totally ask, like, up front in an interview, like, what is your ratio of hiring for women? Like, what is your ratio for hiring for minorities? It's like this to ask if that's something that they care about and value.
Okay, so let's get real honest. Who's on the struggle bus? Who is not doing a good job in terms of diversity and growth? Like, what are the lessons that you've seen of companies or groups that really just don't do a good job? I'm gonna put this group on blast, but IBM. So
they do tout a lot of metrics on, moms that are re-entering the workforce, Black, Hispanic, so forth, hires, but the problem is actually retention. So when you're looking for just an organization or company that has great hiring metrics, also ask about their retention, methods. Like, what are they doing to maintain the people of color that are being hired to grow their talent and to actually make them feel inclusive, right? Also, it's not just about ethnicity in that sense, but also how well are they willing to accommodate and make people with disabilities feel inclusive. That was something that I was very happy about when joining IBM, but unfortunately did not feel that retention was strong enough. So that's actually just one company I'll probably put on blast for the evening.
And I'm gonna put Flatiron School on blast. I asked when I joined engineering at first, because the engineering team wasn't even in terms of gender distribution, and so that was a question I asked. But because I brought it up, it's something that they're actively focused on now. So by bringing it up with management and telling them that we need a technical manager that's a woman, because all of the technical managers that we have are all white men. So how do you bring change? It's sometimes you have to ask, and you have to tell them that this is something I care about. I want to report to another woman. So, and Flatiron School's working on it. There are places where it might not be great, but I do know that there are actual genuine efforts to address it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm throwing my former employer under the bus either, but I think it's hard for large companies to say they want to promote diversity, but then try to change their entire culture and incentive structure and organization to actually make that happen. So I think Google, they've been trying pretty visibly for quite a while. They're the first tech company to actually publicly post their distribution of their workforce. And then a lot of other tech companies followed. But I think after several years of posting those numbers and not having those numbers change at all, it makes you realize that it's actually a much harder problem than just saying you want to change and putting together some training programs and some onboarding programs from different communities to try to hire into your company. I think there's just it's a lot more complicated, especially for a larger company where you can't just ask and just have the whole company change that easily to actually make that change happen. So I wouldn't say they're doing poorly at it. I just think they're really they're trying, but they're struggling with it.
I just wanted to add a company that's doing it right, Stripe. Stripe, they handle payments online, and they have an amazing application. But they also are doing it right in terms of diversity. They have metrics by which they judge how well they're doing. In terms of interviewing, they've adjusted their interview process to actually try to really seek out the characteristics and values of what they want to find, and doing it in a way that's trying to keep in mind how certain questions and structures that they've had before, how that might be exclusionary of certain people from applying. And they also change their job postings to encourage everyone to apply, even if you don't think that you're qualified for it. And they also do that internally with promotions, telling younger female devs to be hey, I think you should really apply for this manager position, and making sure that they push and encourage people that they don't think would actually apply, but may be great at the job.
Fantastic. So there's a continuum, right, of employers that have different perspectives on this issue. But I have a personal kind of mantra, you never step in the same river twice, right? And the world is always changing, and what happened last year is not necessarily the predictor of what's even going to happen next year. And so if for example, if I say, well, Black women received 0.2% of VC funding last year, so I might as well not even try, right? That's not the way to approach it. And I applaud every single person in this room, because what you're saying is, wait a minute, if I want to change the stats, guess what? I got to change the stats, right? So can you talk a little bit about what we can do, those of us that are in this room that are interested in this space, what can they do to distinguish themselves in the hiring process? And are you seeing ways that women move through the hiring process differently than their male counterparts?
Sure. I mean, I think so. When I went through Flatiron School and I sort of had, the first technical interview process, and sort of I had like a lot of concerns, sort of just I'm a white woman, but like being a woman going through that, and I think I sort of was worried like, oh, don't wear a dress, don't act feminine, and I think sort of at least like going to Grace Hopper today, and just like after being in the industry for just a couple of years now, just I feel like being your authentic self as much as you can is actually like a huge win, because like if you are putting less energy into sort of appearing a certain way and more energy into just like being passionate about what you're working on, like I think people will really see that and it will resonate.
I think it depends a lot on the industry. So I think tech may be more, like, for example, if you show up to a tech interview and you're wearing a suit, for some people that's an automatic no, because they're like, oh no, they're like too like dressed up and buttoned up, and like tech tends to be casual with like the hoodies and the sneakers and the Converse, right? So like I think for tech, like I think being your true authentic self is like resonates a lot. But if you were in like some other industry, like if you're in like, I know film and TV, for example, is very close network, like in that case I would be like, just put your first initial and your last name on your resume or something like that. But in tech, like I do think it's really true that you can show up and be your real self.
I think for the interview process, what I've noticed is personally, I hold back a lot. I'm always fearful of boasting or overstating things and being so strictly honest. And there were plenty of times where I would, be the lead of a team or manage a group of guys, and you look at their LinkedIn or you have conversations, they're like, yeah, I did A, B, and C, and when it's time to actually do it, they don't know what the heck they're doing. And I've come to notice a trend in that their confidence is what sells them, and women tend to focus, at least the women in my network and myself, personally speaking, right, on honesty and, finding a way to be so truthful and how we can get into the door and then say, I want to learn this and move forward, and how can we do this? But in reality, it's actually a selling game, right? You've got to, no one's saying, don't overstate, which is something you can't do. I'm not saying that, but definitely sell yourself to the fullest and be very damn good at it and confident, because there are guys taking roles that are just so underqualified. It is insane some of the titles I see that they're putting on their LinkedIn profiles. I'm like, no. When we were on the same team, I'm pretty sure that's not what you were doing. But it goes to show you that they have the guts to go out there and say, I'm going to say this is what I am, you're going to take me for it, and I'm going to get in there and do whatever the hell I need to do and want to do. And I think for the hiring process, women need to be more full in their confidence and more strong in their ability to sell themselves.
Always negotiate for more. Just like, I know that sounds like, even if you're like, oh, I don't deserve it, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but just know your value and because every man is damn well doing that. Let me tell you, when I've hired people, it's crazy, sort of like the gender split on that.
Such an important point. And let's take a step back. So we're talking about once you're already in the tech industry, and really shared a lot of great observations there. But for those of us in the room who are literally contemplating starting coding school and jumping in, I don't know about you, but I'd be scared to death. Anybody honestly scared to death? Like, am I smart enough to do this? Do I have the capability? Is it going to be too hard? Are they going to outpace me? Like, how did you manage the anxiety, just the fear of approaching such a complex subject?
So I would suggest that the focus be more on creativity and application, because learning to code is a tool, right? It's not going to give you the power to save the world. It just doesn't work that way, right? But if you have the creativity and flexibility to really expand your train of thought, coding can then take you anywhere that you need to be. There are people who are, when I have conversations with them saying, well, I'm actually in fashion, but I'm interested in getting in coding, but I don't know how the two will work together. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, everything we do embodies technology nowadays. There's just no excuse to sort of deny yourself that opportunity. So when going into coding, you're going to fail and you're going to succeed. It's just how you leverage your creativity to actually get to where you need to be and take it to the next level to say, you know what, I'm going to learn X, Y, and Z because this is how I want to apply it, and then I'm going to take it to the next level and learn something new and keep climbing that ladder.
I still really suffer from imposter syndrome. Like, I push code like every day and they pay me to do it, and it still feels weird to say I'm a software developer or I'm a software engineer. And I think that's like something as like, I don't know, like I know it's common with a lot of women that we don't necessarily like be confident in owning who we are. And I know that's something that like is an ongoing process for a lot of people internally, but like it is important to like own and be confident in like that space. So it's like if you decide that you want to learn how to code, it's like you can say, yeah, I'm learning how to code, and like not let the fear of seeing certain things scare you. I think that's okay, like that you feel like that, but like as Timmy said, like you gotta focus on like yourself inside, right?
I would just say it's, I guess I don't know if I have that much to add, but just in terms of like being okay with being uncomfortable and sort of trusting Flatiron School to some extent. Like I haven't gone through the process and not necessarily knowing like how it was gonna pan out. Like if you put the work in, I think that there's like a strong support structure here to sort of get you through and get you like your first development job, and then from there, what you sort of choose to do with it is just based on like what your interests are and like how much you put into it.
Yeah, I think people who don't have a quote-unquote traditional background actually has a lot to offer. Coding isn't like a very obscure, abstract concept. If you're just, naturally curious about things around you, if you like learning about like, if you like learning new things all the time, coding is probably a great fit for you. It's constantly like challenging your mind, you're problem solving, you're trying to be creative and build something new and figure out how to build something new and figure out how to kind of solve a problem that maybe someone else hasn't solved before. It's actually pretty fun if you start if you get over that initial hump. And on top of that, I think people who have non-traditional perspectives can offer a lot to a company of just people who have a more traditional background, because you can see things in a different way. And like, for example, even in your interview process, you can probably tell them something about your background or perspective on their product that maybe they haven't even thought of themselves, because you're just looking at it from a different perspective, and that goes a super long way in the interview process. So yeah, it's not scary, and also I think you can leverage a lot of your background to kind of show that you actually can offer something new.
I think that's so powerful, right? Because it's how you frame the situation, how you see yourself, right? I always say, men are chefs and women are cooks. Men are artists and women are crafty, right? Like it's how you see yourself, and giving yourself the permission to take that label of this is what I do and this is how I am in this space is as important as quote unquote men accepting you, men allowing you, men receiving you. It's also what you bring to the table. And I imagine that's true of your coding education. Like you gotta bring your full self to that space, but you're super smart. You've learned like a million things. Why can't you learn this, right? So following that thought, sometimes the discussions of diversity are set up kind of like of a men against women, and them against us kind of a thing. But how have men been allies for you throughout your career, and how have those relationships been useful and helpful?
So someone coming from a cultural background where men and women are not naturally allies, I'll give you just a brief background. I grew up in a West Indian household. My mother's from Barbados and my father's from Trinidad, and I spent time growing up on the islands as well. And super traditional, totally different, like baby boomer generation, train of thought kind of thing. And not understanding the power of a male ally, just not through education, but also professionally. And then understanding the power of a mentor and sponsor. Those were things that were just crazily new to me. And I think leveraging now newly acquired male allies have actually got me through, you know, conversations about not just it being men against women, but men with women. Like, how do we create an environment where it's not always feeling that way and we're working alongside each other? Because at the end of the day, that's what we have to do, right? We're working in companies where it's men and women, other identities as well. How do we create an environment in which we're leveraging everyone's potential? So a lot of the male allies I've definitely leaned on have been either within the academic field or previous managers who have had some wonderful and inspiring things to say about just the state of people and not just the state of women, because of course we're trying to be more inclusive of other gender norms, but I think understanding and identifying the importance of male allies and who you want that to be, and whether they should be a mentor or sponsor is something that I also consider helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with sort of like wonderful like men at like multiple places, different bosses and stuff, but I think specifically in tech, I feel like any field that is like traditionally male dominated, there's sort of this idea that because when there's like fewer women, it's like as it starts to grow and as it starts to sort of like equalize, and you know, you're hopefully like eventually getting 50%. Like, I think once you just have more representation, people are much more like sort of comfortable with that, and it, yeah, I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but just the fact that, yeah, it's like the more representation there is, the more comfortable people sort of feel.
Yeah, I think for me, when I think of allies and mentors, I mean, I am acutely aware of gender disparity in my industry, but I don't also try to frame every day in that perspective. I mean, I try to do the best I can, and I try to find allies and mentors, and I think throughout your career, people come in and go out of your lives, so whether they're men or women, like sometimes they want to mentor you, and you know, you have a lot to learn from them, and then sometimes you learn a lot and then you're ready to move on to the next project with the next manager. So I've had like both male and female mentors and managers, and they've all been great in different ways, and also they've lacked kind of, you know, certain mentoring techniques in other ways. So I think it's probably pretty useful to be kind of able to suss that out of like, what do I need right now from this person, and try to find that person. And yeah, whether they're men or women. I mean, especially in our industry, there just happens to be more men in the management positions. But yeah, I guess luckily I haven't selected mentors where it's been like something that I've had to have to think really hard about.
Fantastic. I mean, I think, I went to a predominantly white, my college was 3% any minority. And the black students, we would huddle together for warmth. We would sit together in the cafeteria, we would sit together in the and one of the things that I had to do was to push myself out of that and to talk to different people and to build those relationships. If you want to succeed and you're about the knowledge, you will go where that knowledge is. You will talk to whoever, whenever, wherever to get that information. So I think bringing that fresh perspective is so critically important. And as we talk about diversity, and what does that mean? Like, what's the value, right? Like, I'd like to hear from you guys. Like, what do you think? Why do we need the people in this room to get into the tech industry? What do they add?
well, like, we all bring our fresh perspective as women or like whatever our backgrounds are. I think it's true when you look at like what's happening in government right now, right? Like, when men are making the decisions about reproductive health care and they don't include any women in that discussion, then it's like, well, then what the fuck? I just think that like if, technology is building our future and like women and whoever else like is not involved in that, then it's like you're going to be you're going to be doing a huge disservice to the entire population. And like I think it's so important for technology, the rooms, like the people who are like making movies, for those writers' rooms to be reflective of, people. Like for people who are building tech, people who are building AI, like people who are like building the things that we will be using, those rooms need to be filled and looking like this room right now, right? Otherwise, they're gonna miss out on certain things where it's not gonna serve us all well, right?
I think too for diversity, the conversation of diversity itself is, if I don't have enough people who look like me where I work, then how the hell do I expect to inspire newer generations to want to get into where I am, or better, right? So I think bringing more people on board to just have that visual representation, right, of what, a person who looks like another person can accomplish, inspires so many people. In the thought itself, it may not seem that way, but for a lot of communities and things that I've done with working with communities, for them to see someone who just looks like me wearing jeans and fake nails and get up there and talk about coding, and they're like, oh my God, like, I love this stuff too, I can do this too. It's a fantastic bonding opportunity for especially a young girl to see someone who looks like her and say, you know what, I can do that, why not?
I just wanted to add, like, when you look at public schools and like desegregating public schools, it raises everyone up. When everyone's segregated, it's like certain communities continue to like be disadvantaged. And whereas like the communities that are advantaged are going to continue to stay advantaged. But if you integrate, then it raises everyone up. Like I think that's so true about like why diversity is so important in the types of companies that we work at. It's like it's beneficial to everyone if the space is diverse.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits that diversity can bring. I kind of have two stories. The first one was actually from the keynote from this morning at Grace Hopper. The second lady, I forget her name, but Jessica Matthews. She is the founder CEO of a energy company. She's a black woman, and I think she's like dual citizen, Nigerian and American. She says her perspective allowed her to just brainstorm and create technologies that like traditionally haven't been there, because they're creating this decentralized mesh energy generation and storage kind of thing, technology for developing countries. But she said, traditionally, because I'm a woman, I thought about it from, how can I build technology that's kind of grassroots and that kind of communicates with each other. So that's where the whole decentralization and collecting energy generation from just people using everyday devices comes from. And it just comes from her thinking differently about how technology kind of interplays. So that's one, like diversity can bring creative ideas to even just creating new companies and building new things. And then the second story is, going back to Google again, because I don't really have that much experience in other companies, but we had a really good people analytics group that just does research on what makes people work better together. They just collect tons of data and they just look at compare different groups and see which groups perform better. And I think just after just many years of comparing different groups, they said we dropped the college GPA requirement, we dropped all these academic requirements when we interview, and we realized that one of the things that binds teams together and helps them perform better was just that they like working together, and they liked they just, they communicate more and they resolve problems faster and they share ideas faster. And I think just having a lot of diversity, the teams become just more fun to work with. You're not kind of just, that one track mind kind of a team. For example, like the Flatiron School Art team, we're one of the most diverse I've worked with, and everyone's just really fun to work with, and we just have such a strong bond. So that there's actually a lot of value there that you don't really think about at first, but studies have actually proven that it helps, teams be more high performing. So it's kind of cool.
Just one tidbit, Jessica Matthews, her background is in psychology and economics. So just imagine that, okay? And she's like a company founder of a successful energy tool.
With multiple
10 patents.
10 patents.
Yeah, I met her at like Google originally and she's freaking amazing. But just think about that, like wherever you start is not where you're, like she said, right? Jessica Matthews, you're destined to be. You create that own destiny, right?
I love that. Okay, and we're gonna go down the last question because we want to give a little time for you guys to ask any questions you might have, and I'll start with you. What do you love about being in tech, and why do you think more women should get involved in it?
Okay. So I love tech because I never want to stop learning, and the fact that it's constantly changing and growing is just, it's almost like I can't even sleep because I'm so excited about it. And I think more women need to get into it just because it's awesome. And I think that we need the representation, and I think if you have that sort of mind that like is always going and just wants to add to something that is sort of the future, because I believe it is, you should be here.
I'm a tinkerer. My dad was an engineer, is an engineer. I come from a family of engineers, and so like I always saw them be like something broke and they would just go and like fix it, and they like that tinkering mindset is what brought me to coding. Like I love like seeing how things work, like pulling shit apart and putting that shit back together, and then also like seeing stuff that like if you're a creator, if you're an artist, like building, like I think tech is such a great space because you can build something and you can see it and you can see people use it, and I think if building and creating things is something that you're interested in, like tech is, learning to code in tech is definitely a space for you.
So for me, I have a background in linguistics and computational linguistics, and now I'm going into quantum computing, and I'm sort of just making my way deeper and deeper into technology. So I always had some type of exposure to technology, regardless in that sense. But I think for me, the real draw to it was I've always wanted to be an astronaut. Unfortunately, I was, not always too well and didn't see that as probably a career path. And then I finally got to the point where I actually started doing so. The open data on NASA portal that they have is actually one that I worked on with Hillary Mason, who actually is the MC the Grace Hopper event, and a few other fantastic women technologists. I never think that I'd be sitting next to thinking through this platform, what it should be like, how people should engage with it. So my experience has always been just let it all in and just sort of go with the flow, knowing truly what interests me and just moving forward with it. And then for why women should enter tech, I guess the only thing I can actually say or ask is why not? I mean, what could possibly be a reason although we're not entirely there, a time with so much opportunity for women that we're not taking advantage of it? Why not, right?
There was another quote I really liked from this morning's Grace Hopper keynote. Well, one of the speakers said, if women knew that you can solve some of the world's biggest social problems through technology, then many more women will be in tech. Because I think there's just so much potential, and that's kind of where everything is going. And I see a lot of, problems of the world and social problems. economic inequality, social mobility, just communication and access to information, access to just infrastructure, and there's just so many things that so many ways that technology can help alleviate and improve some of the social conditions and problems that the world has. I just feel like there's just, yeah, it's just really interesting, and I can spend my whole life on it.
And you can make a lot of money. And that's okay too, right? Is it okay to say you can make a lot of money? Like you're investing a lot in developing yourself to make money and to have a successful career and to impact the world and change the world. Okay, that's my commercial. All right, questions. You should have some. I'm super patient. I can wait you out.
It's not too much of a bummer. Can I ask kind of the opposite of the last question? Like, what do you not like about tech? Have there been things that have been disappointing or frustrating about this issue? Let me think.
She said, I don't even know if I have.
I'm not thinking one, but I don't have like on the spot.
So coding can be a challenge when, how do I put this? Okay, so I'm a new mom. My son's 18 months old, and when he wouldn't take a nap, I was like, okay, what do I need to adjust in order for you to take a nap? Okay, if I just plan it like 5 minutes earlier, and then like the last time, then like you should be able to nap. Like that's like a thing that I think like software engineers have, where it's like this should work. Like if I just change this thing, it should work, and I think that can be like a real source of frustration for like when you're coding. That like someone described it once as like you're banging your head against the wall until you stop banging your head against the wall. Like it can be an infuriating thing to code, but then all of a sudden when it works or your shit compiles and it like runs, like that can be such an amazing feeling. And it's like sometimes like not adrenaline, but like along the lines of like, yes, like I fucking did that. So it's like, I mean that could be true with any job, but I know for sure with like coding, it's like it can be a very, very frustrating process, especially when you're learning. But I think if you don't give up, like you can make it work, and you can get to the side where you're like, man, like I made that amazing thing. They kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. So I actually have two.
What? You went from 0 to 2?
Yeah. The first one is sort of, it's not exactly what Janet said, but just sort of, if you are someone who, it sort of leads you to just want to keep going. So it's like sometimes it'll be like midnight and you're like, well, I'm just gonna close the computer, but then your brain will not stop. So I think like taking space for yourself, like for me, I think I tend to like be a bit of a workaholic like when I'm really into something. So like taking almost like scheduled breaks, but like something creative that you like, if you play music, it's just getting out of that sort of logical mindset, or else you can sort of like burn yourself out.
So just to clarify something, are you asking about the entirety or everything that encompasses technology? Or are you asking like what about a technological role or technical, I guess, experience in a company is like?
I guess any of those. Just
Okay.
Anything that came to mind.
So I think if that's the case then, and you're willing to be flexible, for me, my frustration in technology would be, so technology moves fast, right? You have studied, at least for me, in my area of focus, all the statistical packages that could have possibly come out in like the last month, and then they're like coming out with like a new way in which you can merge two languages in this one package, and then do these several different statistical analyses, and it's a lot, right? But I think the good thing about it too is that it allows you to sort of keep yourself on your toes, and I think anyone who's actually genuinely interested in technology needs to be reading like literally forget like Instagram or Facebook, like just delete that crap. If you need at least one of them, okay, but at least supplement your other platform for a few minutes of reading, whether it's just, waiting for your train or on the train. Just read. If it's something that you don't see yourself at least using, familiarize yourself with it because it's going to eventually wind up in your workflow some way, somehow. Just be open, right? See something that you might have not thought as interesting as something that you could possibly look to learn more about, and grow from there.
That's powerful. So an appetite for change and evolution and not being rigid and not tied to, but 2 months ago we were doing this. That's how I feel about Periscope. See, that's why I never learned that. I knew it. I was like, I knew it. I didn't have to learn that. But you have to always be, it's like perpetual like FOMO, right? No matter what you learned, you can just chuck it in a couple of months because it's going to be something new. And you have to like that. Like that has to be a part of your DNA. And I would add to that an appetite for failure. You can't see failure as a problem. You have to see failure as a part of the process that's built in, that you have already factored that in and you have that expected. But if you operate as if, you know, this doesn't work and you throw your phone against the wall, now you don't have a phone. Right, so I think it's really important that failure is a part of the process, and that's hard for us as the type A women. We have to get straight A's, and you have to have your hair, every hair in place, and your makeup has to be perfect, and you have to have perfect butt, and you have to have like, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of how we're socialized, and then sometimes it's hard to get into a space where breaking it and pushing the boundaries and constantly banging against walls can be challenging. So you gotta like factor that in. All right, any other great questions? That was a great question.
So, a comment and question, I added those to find on LinkedIn, so please accept my LinkedIn. And then a question, so we talked about diversity, and I haven't heard you guys talk about agency. I'm coming from an industry where agency is a very, very huge problem. The tech space seems to have a lot of younger folks. How is that? Where is that about? Do you guys see maybe career folks switching into tech? I don't tend to see that, so I'd like to hear about that.
I'll just snag this real quick and pass it on, but this was another problem at IBM, sorry, but it was. And I